we're back.
Boo, it's scary. It's almost Halloween.
It is.
And I'm really disappointed we're not wearing, sheets or scary stuff. We didn't think
Ghosts,
about it.
Goblins, Scaredy-Cats.
So what could we be?
What kind of costumes what kind of things did you wear when you were a kid for Halloween?
I don't remember. Do you guys remember? Okay, this is everyone who's our age or my age would know. Do you guys remember going to school with those plastic masks?
I've
Remember
seen
those
so
plastic
many people
masks?
talking about that on TikTok these days. Like
we
see.
We probably breathed in really bad chemicals, and I'm surprised that it didn't stick to our face. But that was horrible.
It was. Yeah.
It's probably against the law now.
And they never. I think that the issue was that the mask never aligned with your eyes. So you were blind literally the entire time. So even if you had the mask that fit, which very rarely did it, and it had the elastic, as you walked, it slid.
Yeah.
So you never could see anything ever.
Okay, I'm going to be totally politically incorrect, so all you Gen Z people don't get mad at me. But do you guys remember, for older crowd, do you remember when people dressed up as bums?
Yes. Everybody dressed up as everything.
Hobo, bums. That was in the old days.
Too,
now it's, politically incorrect, but I'm sorry. We did it.
We did it. Exactly. it is what it is. They wouldn't do it today, but we did it then. And then, of course, here in Canada, because Halloween was so cold, we literally had winter jackets over our costumes. So I don't know why we had a costume. I think one year I put a black garbage bag over my winter coat and put on a witch hat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, we're good.
No. But today we wanted to do something a little different. Since it's Halloween, we wanted to call this podcast episode, Don't Be a Scaredy-Cat.
Yep. Face your business fears.
Because truly, Halloween is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so we are going to talk a little bit about all the boogeymen and things in your business and why you're afraid to do crap.
Exactly. And I think the first thing you need to do is name the nightmare, right? So what is it that you're scared of, right? I can think of so many things when I first started my business that I was terrified of. And I think the biggest one personally for me, and this was a million years ago, was the pricing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was a big one for me. I don't know why. I got out there, I was doing my thing, but I remember one time sending an email, and it was like, it's this much money. And then I changed it to this much money, and then I changed it to this much money, and I kept upping it as I was trying to get over my fear. And then I remember clicking the send button, and then they came back with a yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, I'm so glad that I got over that fear.
And
that's a big one for people.
And a lot of people are launching new services, or you're thinking about it for the new year, right? But you're afraid, the same thing, to press that button and launch it. But what's the worst thing that can happen? You don't lose money if nobody signs up. Right. Yeah. So just press the button, put it out there. And if nobody wants your service, no problem. Just do the other thing. But you got to really understand what's holding you back. And so it is very important to identify your fear.
Well, actually, it's very interesting. I saw a TikTok this morning, and a guy was talking about sort of this topic. They were talking about the fears. And he was saying, I charge this much money for my consulting services. And then somebody in the audience said, well, I would never hire you for that much money. And he goes, great. Yeah. Then we agree.
Yeah.
You will never get what I offer.
Yes.
And I will never get your money, and you will never get what I offer. So great. We're in a perfect agreement of a perfect relationship.
Yeah. I just literally, I saw this guy who was selling a product on Instagram, and he's selling it for $27.
Okay.
And which is, we know in the game, that means once you click and buy, there'll be an upsell, right? So we know.
Obviously.
But I've been following him because I put in my email, and his autoresponder is amazing. It's great. He's followed up really well. And I'm at the point this morning, I was like, maybe I'll buy it for $27 just to say, good job. I don't really need the product, but I just thought, good job. So you never know, even though, I am sure that I'm not his target. I'm positive I'm not his target, but at the end of the day, he might make a sale. So you never know. So
absolutely.
Really you have to, number 2 is unmask that monster, right? Unmask it and analyze what that fear is. What's holding you back, and break it down and figure out, realistically, we just talked about what's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't buy it. What's the worst thing that can happen if you say yes to a public speaking event? Like you might forget a point. Well, nobody knows you forgot the point, right? Nobody knows because they don't know your speech. So don't worry about things. Analyze what you're fearful of and then just move forward.
And I think, speaking of public speaking, that one's a big fear.
Yeah.
That is on people's like sort of top 10. And you're right. What is the biggest thing that could happen? I was talking to somebody the other day and they were planning a big event. And they're like, but the biggest guy in the company, like the CEO, is coming to this event. And I'm like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, there's nothing that is going to happen that is going to be the end of the world. Same thing in public speaking. When you go on that stage, there's nothing that's going to happen. You could trip, you could fall. Well, there's actors and actresses that have tripped going up the stage.
Yeah.
They've survived.
Yeah.
So
you have to make sure that it's like, what is it that's holding you back? And just ignore it, right? You have to, brings us to number 3, which is confront the ghoul. So when you identify that ghoul and what's holding you back, you really want to say, okay, let me take small steps now and let's start figuring out little by little what I can do to confront that. Stacy just told you she confronted her fear of pricing by slowly doing increments in that pricing, right? And that's a great way to do it. If you're fearful of pricing, just do it in little bits until you're comfortable with doing the big one. I, on the other hand, would just hit the big button and say, this is what I'm worth, but it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it comes to public speaking, I know a lot of people will speak in front of smaller groups.
Yeah.
Right. Just kind of get over that fear of speaking in front of a bigger group. So
or speak in front of a camera. That's a great start.
Yeah.
Right. If you can't sit in your own home behind your own desk and talk loudly like you're talking to a crowd, then you're going to have a problem when you're getting on stage. So just practice every day. And part of our speaking training in our speaking academy is we have people walk around all day in their house, just doing their topic, making sure that they're comfortable with listening to their own voice. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah,
so confront that ghoul.
And in podcasting and video, I find it really interesting because the fears will either come into play when you're in a microphone only. So that's where that practicing comes in, or the video. So that's why practicing is so important as well. Put that video camera in front of yourself or whatever. No one's going to see it, but just practice, walk around, talk, all of that kind of stuff. Pretend, play, be silly. And then, but definitely confronting that ghoul is very, very important. So
number 4 is find your fear fighting squad. So we want to be Marvel people during Halloween.
Are you going to be what character?
In Marvel?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I like everybody, right? I like the bad guys and I like the good guys. I mean, doesn't everybody want to be Iron Man because he's so witty and smart?
I don't know. I kind of like Deadpool and Wolverine.
That's true.
Yeah.
But they're
not really. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But they're everybody's good. And if anyone watched The Boys, is that what it's called? That's a really interesting superhero movie. But any one of them, all these squads have their community, right? And they interact with each other and support each other, whether it's on online forums or for us, for example, we have our community. It's called The Network.
Yep, exactly.
And that's where you can find really great people to support you and overcome those fears.
Ask those questions of people, ask their advice. What do you think? Put things out there. Just get that support so that you don't feel like you're kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, kind of doing it on your own. And that's sometimes how it feels when you're an entrepreneur. You feel like, do I click that button? Am I putting it out? Does it make sense? Having that community around you is very, very important and can definitely help you face those fears. Absolutely. And then we did talk, and we brought this in last week, and we want to emphasize it again this week, of number 5, which is celebrate every victory. Very, very important to understand that, yes, this past year you've done something very fun. You've had successes. Your clients have had successes, and really acknowledging all the stuff that you've done.
Yeah, it's very important. And, we want to celebrate all of that so that we can move forward. But, one of the biggest pieces of advice that we give our clients is really to reframe their fear, right? To understand that every time a fear comes up, it's your opportunity to move forward, to get through that fear, to look for a growth opportunity, or just to develop new skills and get out of your comfort zone, right? A lot of us don't even realize that that's where we grow. That's how we get better, by confronting that fear and moving forward, just like the people in the scary movies do, right? And you always go, what are you doing? What are you going into that room for? But that's how they move forward to the next step. So it is scary, obviously, but it is really important. So if you don't know something, it's a great way to just say, hey, I don't know this. Can somebody help me out? Even if you're online and you're talking to your Instagram audience or whatever it is, it might be scary to say it, but go, hey, I don't know why I'm scared of this, but I am. Anyone have any suggestions? And it's amazing what people will give you.
And even the superhero, since we kind of went down that road, even the superhero will say, you know what, I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to go into that building. But their focus is on the person that they're saving, and their focus is on their mission. So when you started your business, you wanted to help somebody with a particular problem. And if you have that solution and you're holding that back, then that's not a good thing either. So focus on that piece. Focus on connecting with your audience. Focus on how that problem will be solved by your blueprint or your philosophy or your learnings that you've been able to accomplish. So focus on that piece instead of the 1,000 people that are out there watching you on stage.
It's not like, we've all been through challenging situations. You guys know my situation, for those of you who listen to me for a long time. And everyone goes, well, how did you do it? And I was like, well, when you don't have a choice, you do it, right? If your back is against the wall, you get through your fear and you figure it out. So don't say you can't. Absolutely you can. It's just a matter of, are you looking for an excuse to get out of it, or are you willing to move forward?
Exactly. And number 7 is visualizing success, right? So imagine the positive. That visualization, we've talked about vision boards. We're actually having a vision board workshop coming up on Friday.
Yes.
And that's a big one too, to actually see yourself. If the fear of public speaking, see yourself on stage, visualize what that looks like. If it's a pricing issue, visualize, put that on your vision board, that you're not going to charge this little amount of money anymore. You're going to charge, this bigger number because you've had all of these years experience that you're bringing to the table.
And one thing I want to talk about, the vision board, again, it's on Friday in the network. So for those of you guys can go to our hub, Mastermind City, learn all about it. And what we're doing this year is we're going to bring that forward into our Life Map Navigator, and we're going to use AI. So it's going to be so simple for you to be able to go forward from what your vision is. Because what happens is people make vision boards and they make these goals, and then the hard part, which is how do I get to the goal, they just leave. So this is a way to visualize a success easily by using AI.
Exactly. And then understanding with Life Map Navigator is to actually know what tasks and the goals and stuff like that you're going to be able to succeed in doing it. Because you're right, it's great to have sort of that image or whatever on a board, but it's like, well, wait a minute, how do I get there? How do I actually make that happen? It's not, unfortunately, going to happen just because you put it on the vision board. Like that, unfortunately, is the way people do think. It will not happen. So
you actually have to do work.
You do, and actually have goals, tasks, and understand how you're actually going to get there.
Number 8 is embracing your imperfection. That's a great one for Halloween, because don't all the scary people and scary ghouls and that just embrace what they don't have and what they, are worried about or feeling nervous. Even like the bad guys are always tripping over something and going, where am I going to go from here? So it's really a good idea to say, okay, I'm not going to be perfect, right? I'm not going to be perfect. And as I go forward, I'm going to learn from that mistake, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to embrace that and bring that into my new learning. For those of you who offer learning as part of your services, right? Offer consulting, for example, where do you get that experience? It's from embracing that imperfection, determining what it takes to move forward on that, and then teaching other people how to do the same.
Absolutely. And when it comes to, for example, that biggest fear of public speaking, right? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Embrace the fact that you make a mistake. Sometimes, I know when I first started, I felt like I had to be perfect. And as I embrace the imperfection, when I do the presentation and I make a mistake, I go, oh, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant to say. And that's okay, right? You don't have to be nervous about that piece or anything, video, podcasting. I know a lot of people will do video and then they'll edit it to the point that it's actually no longer natural.
Yeah.
You are allowed to stumble over your words. You know what the biggest thing is? You're allowed to breathe. You're allowed to pause. Actually, pausing is a good thing. You don't have to fill absolutely every second. And when you over edit to make it perfect, it actually is a disconnection.
We don't edit any of our stuff.
Nothing. Actually, you know what? In embracing imperfection, yesterday I realized that I was behind in posting our hot topics on our podcast, on our actual podcast platforms. So yes, even us, we make mistakes, we get behind, life happens. But in the joy, I guess I'll say, in the fact that we don't edit it, it made it very easy because I go add intro, skip to the end, add outro, and I was done. I didn't have to listen through. I didn't have to make those audio edits. I didn't have to go, oh, where did I say that I want to edit out and all that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we just why make extra work for yourself?
Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly. And number 9, I just want to, is focusing on your why. So again, last week we talked about the 10 successes and to fall back in love with your business. And this was one that we talked about.
Big one.
Really want to emphasize this one again this week as well, because it does have to do with fear as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when fear creeps in, when you're thinking about, I don't want to go to that networking event, I don't want to do that video, I don't want to do that episode, or whatever the case is, why did you start your business, right? What impact are you making for other people? And that can really help you get over your fear as well.
And if this point resonated with you, go back to our last episode and listen to that, or go back to our LinkedIn newsletter. It's all there as well. So the final in our scary Halloween podcast is to treat fear as your guide, right? Treat it as a valuable highlight, somewhere where you can go, okay, I know I have this fear. I'm going to take action. So remember, we tried to identify it and we tried to figure out what was holding us back. So now you're like, okay, I've identified it. I get it. Now I have to move forward. So whether it is delegating certain tasks or taking additional training to improve. So if, for example, we talk a lot about speaking, if you're still unsure, we have a great speaking course in our hub. There's lots of great speaking material out there online. So whatever it is, there are so many things that are out there for you to be able to use that fear you've developed and use it as a guide to get better, to move forward, and to be ready for 2025.
And I guess in the opposite front, don't run away. Don't run away from the ghouls. Don't run away from the goblins. Don't run away from the ghosts. Don't run away from the skeletons, right? In the whole Halloween vibe, that's where some people will go, I'm scared of this, therefore I will avoid. And that's probably the worst thing to do. So again, embrace the ghouls, embrace the goblins, and yes, treat it as what do I need to learn more? How can I overcome this so that I can move forward in my business and make a huge impact in 2025.
So those 10 points are what we suggest you do to not be a scaredy-cat for your business moving forward. These are points that we hope that you're going to embrace and that you're going to move forward on. So treat this Halloween as a time for you to go, what am I afraid of and what do I need to do moving forward?